time for Keys to Victory, Week 4, what the San Francisco 49ers have to do to beat the New England Patriots. How do you replace Javon Hargrave? I think we got some names ready to jump in there for the San Francisco 49ers and more matchups to win Sunday. Coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We love and appreciate all of our everydayers out there. Welcome to all the new listeners as well this season. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it tremendously. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. We like to do some lives post-game and some other times throughout the week. And, of course, everywhere you listen to the audio podcast, you can subscribe there as well, because we are there every single day for you here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel. $5. All you got to do, place your first $5 bet at FanDuel for new customers, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Croc. Javon Hargrave, obviously he's getting surgery. He's going to be out for probably the regular season. Maybe there's a chance he comes back if the 49ers get deep into the playoffs, but good chance his 2024 season is done. And the immediate replacement is going to have to come from in-house. And I still think there's some potential for the 49ers, as they've done in the past, to make some moves at the trade deadline. And we don't even know what this roster is going to look like with the way the injuries are coming. Might have bigger injuries than on the defensive line. Who knows? Before the trade deadline comes in about a month. So Javon Hargrave is out. And there's some names that could potentially replace him. Mostly guys on the practice squad. They brought Shaquille Brown back, who was in camp with the Niners. They had Evan Anderson, who's an undrafted free agent, bigger-bodied rookie. And then a guy we're familiar with who's been up and down on the big roster in the practice squad multiple times the last couple of years. That is T.Y. McGill. So one of those guys, and then maybe even a second defensive lineman potentially could be brought up, because it looks like they're going to have a couple of open spots here on the roster to get going in week number 4. Do any of those names mean anything to you? And I'm going to tie this into my key to victory, Croc, my first one, because the 49ers got to win up front. This team's built around the defensive line. They can't screw around and have, a couple of pressures and that's it, right? They got to get after Jacoby Brissett in this game.
Nothing that really jumps out to me. You think of a guy like McGill and know that he's a veteran. So at the very least, he can come in, and I don't think anything is going to be too much for him. There's not going to be too much learning on the job. He understands the scheme. He understands exactly what is expected of him. So, I think for the 49er faithful, it's understanding what is to be expected of him. And, he's not going to be the same type of, defensive tackle that's going to get a sack or two that you might get from Hargraves in the game, or potentially get that maybe a more consistent pass rusher in the Hargraves. You won't get that, but I think for the most part right now, what the 49ers are looking for on that defensive line is some stability. So if McGill can, give you a little bit of that, I think that would be a win for the 49ers.
And more bad news for the 49ers. This is not a major injury, but the guy who's going to jump into the starting lineup for Javon Hargrave is Jordan Elliott, and he popped up on the injury report today with a foot injury. So he was limited in practice. So that was the guy that was supposed to take his starting snaps. And so now the 49ers are going to be down to Kevin Givens, and Malik Collins is the only 100% healthy defensive tackles potentially in this game. So who knows? Maybe they have to bring up a couple of those names. And I would assume T.Y. Gill is the first man up, just because he's done it at the NFL level and they're familiar with him. And they might even need a second guy here just to make sure they've got coverage for this game, depending on what happens on Friday's practice report with Jordan Elliott. He was limited, so it's not like he was completely out of practice, but that's an injury we didn't expect. And the guys hadn't had that much snaps this year.
That's tough. I mean, it's just, I said on the last episode, gosh, that 2020, it keeps creeping closer and closer towards me. And when the replacements to the injured guys are injured as well, I mean, that's a big issue. Even banged up, because again, you can be, able to play are you 100% yourself? And I think for the 49ers right now, a team that's 1-2, you need guys that even if they are, not legit starters, but whoever it is that's stepping on the field, you need them to be a little bit more 100% themselves. And right now, the 49ers, they're just not getting that out of most of the bodies out there. You expect this, middle of the season, later in the year, a lot of guys banged up. I'm not sure you expect this through 4 weeks, where it's not just the starters, but the guys that are replacing them that are banged up as well.
Have you seen anything different on the 49ers defensive line this year, whether it's Bosa, whether it's scheme-wise with the new defensive coordinator? It just feels like they haven't been that powerhouse unit. They've got pros, they've got good players. There are teams that would kill to have the 49ers depth chart, even without Javon Hargrave on their defensive lines. But I feel like the production's just been weird. Bosa had a couple of wins. He beat Darisaw, who's a really good tackle for a sack. So it's not like Bosa's not a good player. Does it feel like they're playing different, scheme different? It doesn't feel like they're getting after it like they have in years past.
It feels like it did last season as far as the pass rush goes. And I was someone who was like, oh man, I feel better about this defensive line this season than I did last year. And, obviously you're missing Eric Armstead, but, even last year you had Hargraves, you had Armstead, but that edge rushing position, I'm like, I don't know what you're going to get out of that with Drake Jackson. And obviously things haven't quite worked out for Drake, but coming into this year, you added Gross Matos, and you're like, okay, it gives a little bit of versatility there on the defensive line. You added Leonard Floyd. You're like, all right, like that's a guy who's 10 plus sacks per year over the last 4 seasons coming off the edge. You have guys that can really complement Nick Bosa. And unfortunately for the 49ers, it still feels a lot like the 49ers defensive line is going to go as Bosa goes. And Bosa is the guy that's going to generate a lot of attention. He's getting doubled. He's getting chipped. A lot of the best guys do. But that's going to make it to where you kind of see him and you don't, in the sense of his impact on the game. So you need the others to step up. And I think right now it feels like a lot like last season where the 49ers were trying to figure out anyone who could step up and pass rush opposite Nick Bosa, whether it was, an Armstead, Drake Jackson. They traded, got a guy like, Chase Young and tried to figure out what he could do. There was Randy Gregory at one point, right? Just throwing bodies out there who can help take the pressure off of Nick Bosa. Well, right now it feels like it's another year where you're gonna go as Bosa goes, and again he's gonna get a lot of attention.
I feel like some phone calls will be made over the course of the next few weeks, and so potentially some movement at the 49ers might feel like they need to make a move. Maybe too far away from the trade deadline right now to know exactly what you're going to be looking for there. But who knows? With now another injury popping up on the defensive line, maybe that gets a little bit more intense with some early trade calls, and you need teams to be more out of it so you can go get someone. Whether we've talked about DJ Jones, and he's a familiar name, so of course he's going to be brought up. A couple more losses by the Denver Broncos, they might be like, yeah, okay, let's do something here. We're ready to move some players out and get some draft picks for the future. So we'll see how that goes very soon. But it's next man up for the 49ers. So hopefully Jordan Elliott's able to play. I want to see more of what he looked like. And T.Y. McGill, I trust T.Y. McGill. He's a solid player, but it does start to get very thin for the San Francisco 49ers on the defensive line right now. And as I mentioned, my key to victory, you got to win up front. I want to talk a little bit more about the offensive line, Croc, as well next, and some comments from Kyle Shanahan on young Jacob Cowing and why Ronnie Bell's in there and Jacob Cowing is not. And guess what? Jacob Cowing now showing up on the injury report as well as we get ready for week 4. More keys to victory against the Patriots next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5 APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. This episode of Locked On 49ers also brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million in active members. And PrizePicks is the easiest way to play DFS. It's the most exciting way to play as well because unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. You're not playing against a massive pool of players. There's no sharks in the pool. It's just you against those stat projections on PrizePicks. All you do is you pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play just $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Quick little note from 49ers practice, Croc. And this is something I've been calling for since training camp, basically since Dominic Pooney showed up and looked pretty darn good at right guard. And he won that right guard job from Spencer Burford. So Chris Foerster, 49ers offensive line coach, today revealed that Spencer Burford is getting some reps at offensive tackle for the 49ers. And I love it. I called for it, and I'm excited to hear that it's happening now. So he basically becomes the 4th offensive tackle for the 49ers because Jalen Moore is the only extra tackle they had after starters Trent Williams and Colton McKivitz. Now you got Jalen Moore, and then you've got Spencer Burford, who is working in at tackle. It wasn't specified if he's working in at left tackle or right tackle, but I would assume that he's probably working in at both sides. But he did play left tackle at college, and he's a player that I think profiles just as well as tackles he did at guard. So I think that's a smart move by the 49ers. You need to be versatile. And if he's not going to be starting on the inside, he could become a super sub for you long-term and potentially back up 4 spots on your offensive line. So I love that. And that brings me to my next key to victory, which is I'm talking about winning up front, Croc. This is the New England Patriots team. You got to win up front. And the one battle that I think might skew towards the Patriots' favor is, speaking of tackles, Colton McKivitz versus Keon White. And he's a young up-and-coming pass rusher for the New England Patriots. He's probably their most beastly dude after they traded Matt Judon before the season started. And so that's a matchup I'm going to be watching. You can't get the 49ers can't be getting beat up front in this game because I'm tired of seeing it, Croc.
I'm glad that you brought up McKivitz because McKivitz was a guy who was drafted to play guard. And he had to kind of slide out and play tackle. And we've been watching him play tackle for multiple years now. And he's been better at tackle than he was at guard. And I don't know how much that's saying because most 49er fans right now, the faithful, they want him out of there. They want him benched. They want anyone but him. Maybe Spencer Burford, a guy who was drafted to play tackle but started games at guard. And obviously he had to rotate. He was trying to make that transition. It hasn't been super smooth. Maybe sliding back outside, getting those tackle reps. Maybe he just profiles better at it as a tackle, as did McKivitz. And I'd be willing to bet we wouldn't see much of a difference. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing. Maybe it's a slight difference, but just a little bit better athleticism out there on the edge. This is a guy that when he was drafted, they show videos of him out there doing backflips, big offensive tackle, being able to move that way. I would love to see him, kind of kick step, see what he looks like a little bit more out in space. Use that athleticism a little bit. So, I wouldn't mind seeing that at all.
And if you're looking at the numbers, Colton McKivitz has to be better. He hasn't started the season great. This statistic was relayed by Nick Wagner of ESPN, covers the 49ers, does a great job there. Love reading Nick Wagner stuff. And through 3 games, the numbers show one outlier for the 49ers in pass protection pass block win rate is the stat here. So it's a percentage. So Trent Williams is still #1 in the NFL amongst offensive tackles in pass block win rate at 97.6%. He's #1. If you're going left to right here on the 49ers offensive line, it's really pretty solid and obviously spectacular with Trent Williams still again. And I think Trent Williams even hasn't played his best ball that we've seen from him, but he's a Hall of Famer. So he can be 90% still working back from a holdout and still be a pretty awesome player. Aaron Banks at left guard is 9th among guards, 95.1%. Jake Brendel is 10th among centers, 95.5% pass block win rate. Dominic Pooney at right guard, the rookie, pretty phenomenal for a rookie to come in and be 18th amongst guards in the NFL, 94.1% pass block win rate. And then you get to Colton McKivitz at right tackle. It's an 81.6 pass block win rate, which is 53rd amongst offensive tackles in the NFL. So that's why this is the type of matchup that I'm highlighting in this game that could skew in the favor of the New England Patriots.
That's not good. That's on the low end. Listen, the NFL has an issue with offensive tackles. So out of 64 offensive tackles, if you're ranked 54th, you're really not a starting caliber tackle, because there might only in the NFL be a legit 30 starters at tackle, and the other guys are people you probably would want to replace but maybe can't. So if you're talking about being in the 50s of the rankings out of all those guys, that's not ideal, and not ideal for your young quarterback and Brock Purdy.
You think it's a coincidence that all of a sudden this week Spencer Burford's starting to work at tackle?
I don't think it's a coincidence at all.
We'll see. Maybe Spencer Burford can pull McKivitz on McKivitz and go from guard to tackle.
Yeah. The way that the NFL watches film, you grade every play. So, you look, and typically they do like plus and minus, right? Teams do it differently, but most of the teams that I've been a part of, or all of them, you grade they grade the practice film, they grade the game film, but they just give a plus or minus. And I'd assume that when they're watching and they're breaking down that film, McKivitz is getting a few more minuses than that I did with out there. So you got to start figuring out an answer. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And they continue to roll this guy out there. It hasn't quite been working. Again, everyone and their mom was clamoring at the 49ers to draft offensive tackle, or at the very least address it, challenge him to some extent. They extended him as opposed to challenging him and potentially having somebody to replace him. So maybe Spencer Burford is that guy. Maybe they had that in the plans all along. Maybe they said, you know what, if it doesn't start off great with McKivitz, we got Spencer Burford in our back pocket, and if we need to use it, we will. It sounds like now they are working towards potentially using it.
I want to bring up one more thing real quick, and then you can drop any of your keys to victory on me here, Croc. Did you hear Kyle Shanahan's comments earlier on in the week when he was asked about Ronnie Bell and then asked about Jacob Cowing? And because it basically made me think, oh man, Ricky Pearsall has no shot to start playing even when he comes back from IR, because he was basically like, oh yeah, I wasn't going to put him in. He's not ready. And it's funny because he was asked directly about the comments that John Lynch made. So John Lynch was on the radio going rogue, being like, Jacob Cowing's going to get some ops this week. And Kyle Shanahan was like, no, why would I give this rookie ops? He's not ready to play. It's like, oh my God. And so, I've been paraphrasing here, but it was really pretty obvious. He's like, oh man, he doesn't like playing rookies. He doesn't like trusting them, and he's not going to play young players unless he really has to. And so I wouldn't expect to see Jacob Cowing this week either. I wouldn't expect to see a lot of Ricky Pearsall, even when he's activated, especially if Debo and Juwan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk are all healthy at that time. Looking at the wide receivers here on the injury report from Thursday's practice, and Jacob Cowing also popped up on the injury report to make it even more difficult for him to crack the lineup. He's got an illness. Trent Williams has an illness as well, so something's kind of going through the 49ers locker room. So hopefully that doesn't continue and get more people. It's starting to feel like the COVID season there. All of a sudden, everyone gets sick right before game week or game day. But yeah, Jacob Cowing didn't participate in practice. Trent Williams was ill earlier in the week. He's back to full practice, so that's a good sign there. And Debo Samuel was back at practice in limited fashion from his calf injury. So we'll see if he's able to get a full practice in on Friday, then that'll be the key likely to show us that Debo Samuel's ready to go this week. So might get Debo Samuel back. So there's at least some good injury news this week for the 49ers. But that's what the wide receiver group's looking like right now. And Cowing, good luck, man.
I wonder how bad is it? Is it just clueless with anything that he has to do? I understand being, early on, not being, 100% ready. We saw this with Debo Samuel. He talked about it. He was like, man, I wasn't really ready until towards the end of the season, right? Like really having to grasp. And different situation, he kind of had to play. 49ers were coming off of, the two back-to-back, not great years. And they didn't have the super high expectations that third year, and obviously ended up going to the Super Bowl. but that kind of creeped up on the 49ers. And even then, they still had to trade for a receiver mid-year with Emmanuel Sanders. I wonder with Cowing, like there's no way you can give him just, you don't have to know everything, but we like that you do these things. So let's have some little Jacob Cowing packages where you could do these things well. We can work, hey, you got these routes. This is what you do. You can do those things, and that's it. So maybe it's only 8 plays offensively. Maybe it's only 9 plays, but it's 9 plays that he knows exactly what he's doing on those plays. Like, you can't do something like that to get somebody young and talented. And all it does is get those guys more and more confidence. Yep. But when you're just out, and you're saying, not ready, I don't know what John Lynch is saying. For somebody who's probably struggling to find his confidence and find his way, I think that only makes it worse.
Yeah, and it's exactly what I said last week. Because like 0 snaps for Jacob Cowing, like can't give him a screen pass. Like you hand him the ball. Like walk over and hand it to him if you don't trust that he's going to be in the right place with his routes. You get the ball in his hands, because the other stuff you were doing wasn't working. The guys you did have in there was dropping the football. So,
what routes was he running in the preseason where he knew what he was doing and making plays?
Good point. Run that play. And Brandon Ayuk, it wasn't even year 2. He was already still in the doghouse. He still didn't know what to do right for Kyle Shanahan in year 2. So. We'll see how long it takes for these rookie wide receivers to
control freak, man.
Kyle Shanahan's good graces. But you got to believe there's at least a package of plays, a couple plays that you install during the week. Be like, look, we got a 4-3 guy, and we're going to get him the ball on this couple of plays. If we're in this,
Brandon Ayuk caught for almost 800 yards, and it was like, well, if other guys were healthy, he just wouldn't have even played. It's like you can't figure out a way at all to utilize some of these young talented dudes. I don't want to question him too much. He's won a lot of football games. So, you're always going to give Kyle Shanahan the benefit of the doubt. I get it. He's done a lot of awesome things. But there's just some things that I just question. And part of it is that, I listened to, Cameron Taylor-Britt, the cornerback from the Bengals, and it all hasn't worked out for him. But he said one thing about Jaden Daniels. He was like, they don't give him a whole lot to do. It's not this super sophisticated offense. They keep it simple, run some college-y stuff. Well, if that's what it's going to take to get this guy to be able to play like he did against the Bengals, throwing like 1 or 2 incompletions, multiple touchdowns, being super efficient, if it takes them kind of scaling back and add slowly, to what he's able to do, then do it. And you see it working. Like, God, it has to be all or nothing. It's just a question.
Even if it took a little extra practice time throughout the week to install something, like, let's get Cowing on the field and get the ball thrown his way instead of Ronnie Bell. That's the way I would put it. So we'll see. Deebo Samuel comes back. We probably won't see either one of them on the field for the 49ers. So next, more keys to victory, and we'll get you ready. I got one more stat for you that tells, I think, the entire story of why the San Francisco 49ers are going to beat the New England Patriots. Next. The next segment of Locked On 49ers, sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. So when you get a hunch that in the middle of the game, watching the game, you're like, I want to go check the latest stats. You want to view live play-by-play and so much more. Well, you can find it all on the same page where you're placing your bets at FanDuel. And a special offer for our listeners, you'll get started this year with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All you got to do is sign up at FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app, and play your first $5 bet. And no matter win or lose on that bet, you'll get $200 extra to play with in bonus bets on FanDuel. Again, go to FanDuel.com, download the app. That is FanDuel.com. All right, Croc. Yards on 10-plus yard throws. So in the entire NFL, teams that have the most yards on plays where they were 10-plus yard throws, the San Francisco 49ers have the most of those in the NFL. They have 581 yards on 10-plus yard throws. The New England Patriots have the fewest in the NFL. So we're talking number 1 and number 32 in this game. The fewest yards on 10-plus yard throws, 84 only on the entire season for the New England Patriots. And the 49ers have been hit with some big plays in recent weeks, and like you're looking at, okay, Sam Darnold, you feel good about it because, hey, we helped develop Sam Darnold into a better quarterback than he used to be before he was with the 49ers, and he's got a great arm. And the best maybe one of the top 2 wide receivers in the NFL, they hit you with a 97-yarder, and then Sean McVay's really good. Matthew Stafford's really good. They hit a couple plays on you last week. If the New England Patriots come into town and Jacoby Brissett is hitting bombs to Jalen Polk or something, like, just pack it up, Croc. So look, the 49ers, they better just they better just run wild on the New England Patriots in this game.
I think one of the guys that they definitely would be looking to get the ball in the hands of, and that's Demario Douglas. So, you talk about keys to victory. I think it's a specific player that you have to make sure you keep in check. This is a guy that can be dynamic. They are going to target him. They look for different ways to get the ball in his hands, whether it's, throwing the ball to him or getting it to him in the backfield. He has a couple carries on the season. You have to kind of limit the protection of him, because if he gets going, then things can get a little weird. So you want to make sure that you keep him settled down. Polk, I think, still finding his way, rookie out of Washington, still finding his way in the NFL, kind of where he fits. And obviously, just in general, the passing game from the New England Patriots has just been struggling. And they're depending a lot on, again, kind of 2 players, man, Stevenson and Douglas. So you got to make sure that you don't let those 2 guys get going, especially down the field, 10+ yards down the field.
That's probably a key to victory, right? What's going on in the 49ers secondary in your eyes? A lot of people are pointing at the safeties saying they're too slow, like the 49ers. And I kind of agree. It's like, you got a bunch of strong safeties, right? Do they have a true center fielder? I don't know. Because even if, say Talanoa Hufanga, maybe he walks in free agency. Okay. And I like Malik Mustafa. We still got 2 strong safeties, And so what do you think about that?
I think their safeties have been slow. They had speed with Jaquiski Tartt and Jimmy Ward. Since losing those guys, haven't had a whole lot of speed back there. Heck, last year they played with Tayshaun Gibson. He wasn't the fastest player in the league, right? A lot, kind of past his prime, but played faster on the field because of the mental aspect of things. So they've been getting by with players that aren't the fastest and maybe win a little bit more with smarts. I don't think that's the issue. It seems to be a little bit more like miscommunication on plays, some of the bigger plays that we've seen. I'm seeing pre-snap communication, but then the execution isn't quite there. So I'm pretty sure this week in practice, understanding what teams want to do, being a little step ahead mentally, and then being able to communicate those things and then execute on the field. I think that'll help the safeties and just secondary a lot.
Before we go, Croc, any keys to victory you're looking at for the 49ers this Sunday?
Special teams. That was one of the things that I felt like really let the 49ers down last week, especially late. So I think there's 2 key victories I could think of off the top of my head. One, again, special teams. Be sound on special teams. Special teams coordinator, go out there, make sure that you light a fire under everyone. The coverage has to be terrific on punt unit. The returns have to be good. When you have those opportunities, can't be back there, muffing punts, or you'll find somebody else that could do it. Jacob Cowan, speaking to you right there. But I think special teams definitely has to be a lot more sound. That's one of my main ones there.
By the way, another quick note on the 49ers injury report. Brock Purdy it was listed that he's got a back injury. Now, he's been a full participant in practice on Wednesday and Thursday. So I don't even know why they put that on there, just to scare fans, apparently. But it says Brock Purdy back, even though he was full participant in practice both Wednesday and Thursday. So I hope there's not something that's the beginning of because a back could put you out for a while, Croc. And you don't want to be getting your quarterback hit either if he's dealing with a back injury. So it's another reason why our key to victory for the 49ers up front is to get those guys blocked up for young Brock Purdy so he can continue his 10+ yard throws against the New England Patriots this week.
Yeah, I think my last key to victory has to be 49ers. You got to play for 4 quarters. And I think we saw that against the Jets. We have not seen that since. You have to play for all 4 quarters. You got to finish this game strong. I'm pretty sure the 49ers are harping on that. They're kicking themselves over losing to the Rams, especially in the fashion that they did, blowing a 14-point lead and then a 10-point lead. So you got to finish. You got to play all 4 quarters. I'd be harping on that all week if I'm the 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan.
One more key to victory for me, and this comes from a tweet from a guy named @Crocky209. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to share the screen here. And I want to see Kyle Shanahan. I don't want to see. My key to victory is not seeing Kyle Shanahan get his head rubbed by the opposing coach like your kid just got struck out in a Little League baseball game. This is funny, Croc, when you posted this today, and it's a caption to a picture of it's a still picture post game Rams 49ers, and Sean McVay, who's not very tall, could barely reach the top of Kyle Shanahan's head, is like giving him a little pat on the head after the game, after their midfield handshake. And you said, Kyle looks like he got sunned by McVay in this pick. If the homie beat me and patted my head, low key, we got to wrestle real quick.
We got to wrestle, bro. Like, nah, okay. you're not going to beat me and then pat me on my head. Like, hey, man, hey, good job. Let me be quiet because, I run into a lot of coaches that listen to Locked On 49ers, so I'm not going to say much, but
hey,
no, I'm going to say it. Forget it. I'll say it.
Pat him on the head for me.
Well, listen, we played a game, and the coaches shook our hands and was like, good game. You guys fought hard. Oh, it pissed me off. We lost the game. But they called back like 3 touchdowns, called back one of my interceptions for one of my kids. At one point, the penalty discrepancy was 15-1. 15 penalties on us to 1. Now, we got to clean up what we can clean up, being very undisciplined. But some of it was like, all right, refs, come on now. What are we doing here? And then for everyone to see that, and then the coaches say, you guys fought hard. Man, get the hell out of my face, man. I was ready to wrestle some of them out there.
15-1. Were you playing the Kansas City Chiefs?
That's what you would think. That's what you would think. Oh, I'm getting fired up thinking about it. Big game tomorrow night. Got to win that game. We play Moran Catholic out in the Bay Area.
That's Jared Goff's alma mater, right?
Oh, is that where he went? Yeah,
I think so.
Bay Area is like North Bay, like over above San Francisco or something like that.
Yeah, that's not far. I'm about 10 minutes north of the Golden Gate Bridge, so Marine Catholic's a little bit north of where I'm at.
Yeah, they got to come to Stockton though. They got to come to the South Side. We're not leaving this game without a W. So
okay, go get that dub. Go pat somebody on the head after the game. Thanks everybody for making
a good game. You guys fought hard.
It's fought hard. I didn't realize you guys fought hard was like a big FU after a football game.
I think it is if you feel like we felt like we should have won that game. Like we felt like we were the better team. We felt like, dude, we gave it to you guys. Now, if it's a team that's just better than us and they beat us and we're kind of like fighting and clawing, then it's like, all right, I'll take that.
Yeah.
But when we get multiple touchdowns taken back, interception called back, I mean, the flag discrepancy, crazy. They're calling anything and everything that they can call on us. Just shake my hand and just say, hey, good game. That's it. I don't want to hear you fought hard.
Thanks, everybody, for making
Now we got to wrestle. Now we got to wrestle.
Yeah, good. I don't want to see a viral video of Croc wrestling another coach after the football game. Chill out a little bit. Thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For your second listen, check out the Peacock and Williamson NFL show, the new Locked On NFL, so much more, 200+ podcasts to choose from here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Croc and I back with you post-game to break it all down right here, Locked On 49ers.
Subscribe to this video. Subscribe to my dad's podcast.